Hey everyone! Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm so glad you found this video. Today, we're diving into something that's been in the news recently and has a lot of people talking: President Trump's decision to impose a 25% tariff on nearly all goods coming from Mexico and Canada. This move is shaking up trade relations and sparking questions about what it means for businesses, consumers, and the global economy. So, in this video, we're going to break down what tariffs are, why Trump is making this move, the potential impacts it could have on your life, and what might happen next. Stick around to the end where we'll discuss how these tariffs could affect everyday items and industries you care about. Let's get into it. Before we jump into the specifics of Trump's plan, let's start with the basics. If you're unfamiliar with tariffs, let's break it down. A tariff is essentially a tax that a government imposes on goods imported from another country. When you hear about a 25% tariff, that means the government is saying, we're going to add 25% to the price of goods coming in from this country. The idea behind tariffs is to make foreign products more expensive and, ideally, encourage consumers to buy products that are made domestically. But here's the thing: while tariffs help protect local businesses from foreign competition, they don't come without their downsides. For one, they often increase prices for consumers, that's you and me. If you're used to buying a certain product for a low price, and suddenly there's a 25% tariff slapped on it, chances are you're going to see an increase in the cost. The U.S. has used tariffs in various ways throughout its history, sometimes to protect young industries, sometimes to push for political or diplomatic gains, and sometimes to just raise revenue for the government. But, as we'll see with Trump's recent announcement, tariffs can also become a form of political leverage. They're not always about protecting the economy, they can also be used to get other countries to change their behavior. So now that we know what tariffs are, let's talk about Trump's plan to impose a 25% tariff on nearly all goods coming from Mexico and Canada. This is a big deal, especially since both of these countries are two of the U.S.'s largest trading partners. Why is Trump doing this? Well, it's largely about immigration and drug control. Trump argues that Mexico isn't doing enough to stop illegal immigrants from crossing the U.S. border and that Canada is not adequately addressing drug trafficking, particularly fentanyl, a synthetic opioid that has contributed significantly to the opioid crisis in the U.S. Fentanyl is mostly produced in China and trafficked through Mexico, and the Trump administration wants to pressure both Mexico and Canada to take stronger actions to stop the flow of drugs into the U.S. By threatening to impose tariffs, Trump is hoping to force these two countries to take stronger actions to curb illegal immigration and drug trafficking. However, it's important to recognize that Mexico and Canada are already working with the U.S. to address these issues. Mexico has made efforts to secure its southern border, and Canada has joined forces with the U.S. in international efforts to combat drug trafficking. So, you can understand why some might question whether these tariffs are the right tool to address the root problems. But Trump seems set on using tariffs as a leverage tool. Okay, now you're probably wondering, why is this such a big deal? Well, this tariff decision is significant for a couple of reasons. First, the U.S. has had long-standing trade relationships with Mexico and Canada, especially since the NAFTA agreement, which has since been replaced by the USMCA, United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement. The US and Mexico, in particular, are key trade partners when it comes to automobiles, electronics, and agriculture. Second, tariffs are a disruptive tool. They shake up established systems and can have far-reaching consequences. By slapping a 25% tariff on goods from these countries, the U.S. is potentially damaging its own economy as well as diplomatic relations. Trade wars, especially with major partners, can quickly escalate and affect sectors like manufacturing, agriculture, and even consumer goods. This move also draws attention to something we've seen in previous administrations: trade wars. When one country imposes tariffs, other countries usually retaliate with tariffs of their own, which can result in a back-and-forth escalation. So, this is not just about one country imposing tariffs, it's about how the global economy responds. Let's dive into the economic impact of this tariff plan. We already know that the goal is to increase the cost of imported goods, but what does that actually mean for businesses and consumers? 1. The auto industry. First up, let's talk about the auto industry. Did you know that Mexico and Canada are major players in the auto industry? In fact, these two countries play an essential role in manufacturing parts for U.S. cars. When you look at U.S. car manufacturers like Ford, General Motors, and Fiat Chrysler, a lot of the parts that make up these cars come from across the border. If these companies are forced to pay an additional 25% on car parts, those extra costs are going to be passed down to consumers. Experts estimate that the price of a new car could rise by as much as $12,000. That's a lot of money for most people looking to buy a car. And don't forget, these price increases would likely affect used cars too, because used car prices tend to reflect the overall cost of new car production. 2. Food prices. Next, let's talk about food. Mexico is the largest exporter of fresh produce to the U.S. and provides many of the fruits and vegetables we consume on a daily basis. Avocados, tomatoes, and peppers, these are just a few examples of goods that come from Mexico. If these tariffs are imposed, we could see higher grocery bills, especially for produce. In fact, some estimates suggest that avocados, a staple for many households, could become 25% more expensive. Imagine trying to make guacamole for your Super Bowl party, and suddenly the cost of avocados skyrockets. Not fun. Additionally, U.S. farmers who rely on Mexican imports for their own production might also see higher prices for the supplies they need. This could affect everything from cereal to frozen meals, as many packaged foods use ingredients that come from both Mexico and Canada. 3. The beer industry. Yes, the beer industry, and no, we're not just talking about Mexican beer. The U.S. imports over $5 billion worth of tequila from Mexico each year. But other products, like Canadian whiskey and beer, could also see price increases due to these tariffs. If you enjoy a cold Corona or a smooth Canadian whiskey, those prices could climb, meaning your happy hour might get more expensive. The ripple effect. How does this affect you? Now, you might be wondering, how does this affect you directly? While the tariffs mostly target businesses, consumers will feel the effects in several ways. 1. Price increases. We've already discussed how goods like cars, produce, and alcohol could become more expensive, but what about other everyday items? Many of the products you buy, from clothing to electronics, have parts that come from Mexico or Canada. The cost of these goods could go up as well. 2. Job losses. The ripple effects of these tariffs could also lead to job losses in industries that rely on imports from Mexico and Canada. For example, the auto industry could see layoffs as production costs rise. Other industries, like agriculture, construction, and even retail, might face disruptions as well. When companies can't get the goods they need for production, they may have to scale back or shut down parts of their operations, leading to potential job cuts. 3. Global tensions. Another side effect of tariffs is the impact they have on global relations. Trade wars often result in retaliation, which we're already seeing from Mexico and Canada. As these countries impose tariffs of their own on U.S. goods, it could create a vicious cycle of rising costs, lost jobs, and strained diplomatic ties. Will these tariffs actually achieve the intended results? That's still up for debate. The idea behind the tariffs is to pressure Mexico and Canada into making changes to their immigration and drug policies, but it's unclear whether this will be effective. Both countries have already taken steps to address these issues, but Trump is clearly frustrated with their progress. So, will this lead to policy changes, or will it just lead to higher prices? In conclusion, Trump's 25% tariff on Mexico and Canada is creating a lot of uncertainty in global trade. While it's meant to address issues like immigration and drug trafficking, the economic impact could be far-reaching. From rising prices on everyday goods to job losses and global trade tensions, the consequences of this decision could affect us all. So, what do you think? Will these tariffs work, or is it just going to hurt consumers and businesses? How do you think this will impact your daily life? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more updates on this and other topics. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.